All right. Hello everyone. Welcome to the Exampreptool. Do you want to start your career in the IT industry? Worried about how to start and where to start? That is the reason we have launched brand new unique courses which will help you to crack your high paid dream jobs. What is that course, sir? As you can see that a new program which is industry ready course on DSA and Oracle Database with a real time project. Right? So you all know that nowadays data related roles are becoming so much popular. They are paid very well, right? But industry is always expecting the skilled professionals who can work on the projects independently and who can provide the solutions to the real world business problems, right? And the fundamental question is you should ask is that since the demand in the market is very high for the data related roles, are you good at a database technologies like SQL and PLSQL? Do you have a good problem solving ability? Which is, are you able to solve any algorithmic related problems? Are you good at data structures and algorithms? Being a computer science student, are you able to handle a large volume of data? Right? Being a computer science student, are you able to automate the database related activities? Are you able to provide an optimized solution to your business problem? Please try to question all these things. If not, if answer is no, if not, this is the perfect course for you, where we will be covering each and everything. What is that? Industry ready course on DSA and Oracle Database. Right? What is that? Industry ready course on data structures and algorithms, also Oracle Database with a real-time project. Right? Please try to question yourself before joining anything. Right? And after completing the course, what kind of roles you can expect? Right? What kind of roles you can expect, sir? So if you complete this course, you can start your career as a database developer or data analyst. Since you are learning data structures and algorithm, if you learn the Python syntaxes and semantics, then you can very well try for the data analyst roles as well. And also this is very much sufficient course for starting your career as a data engineer and data scientist related positions. Let me tell you one thing. So for data engineers and data analyst roles, data scientist roles, so you need to add little more other technologies as well. So this course will become a very strong foundation for learning the other technologies as well. Right? In this course, we are going to start everything from the very basic level, from the scratch, and we will take you to the level where you can work on the very complex problems also. Right? And one more thing, so whenever you are learning any technologies, don't just learn the technology, try to become a master in the technology so that job searching process will become so much easier to you. Are you getting? Yes. And one more important thing is that in case any of you struggling in career with a lot of career gap, I don't know what to do, and you want to start the career in the IT industry, so this course can help you to restart your career very properly, very strategically. So whatever required to restart your career, we are going to provide from our side. What is that, sir? Since we are saying this course will start from the very basic level and we will take you to the very advanced level. So once the course, after completing the course, you need to start working on the real-time project. For that, we will give the guidance properly. So you have to complete the real-time project. exactly similar to the industry, right? And after completing the course, you are going to get a course completion certificate. Along with that, if required, if you want to cover your career gap, if required, if necessary, on demand, if you request us, then we are going to provide you the experience certificate, which will be really relevant for the industry, which is relevant for the industry, right? So using that experience certificate, you can very well start your job searching process by covering the some experience, maybe 2 years or 3 years experience, right? For that, you have to prepare very well. You need to build a strong, solid foundation in such a way that your first interview will be the last interview. Are you getting? And also, one more important thing is that when you before you start the job searching process, it is recommended that you try to build a strong portfolio and showcase your skill set there and start job searching process. And you have to keep only one thing in mind, that your first interview will be the last interview, right? Yes. So in this course, we are going to take only limited set of people so that we can concentrate on each and every student very properly. So that is the reason we have a limit on the number of intake of students, right? Enroll today and start your learning journey so that you can work on the projects, right? You can contact us if you have any concerns. You can very well send a message. We will reply properly. We will give more information, right? So welcome everyone for again important lecture. So right, we are dealing with the concept of file management system in this today's lecture. In the previous lectures, we have seen what is the different way of storing the data. That is a traditional way of storing the data, right? What is that? The first one is manual way of storing the data, which is a paper-based approach. So here we are storing the data in the books, right? Ledgers and registers, right? It is very simple and easy to access, but it is outdated and there is no backup and recovery facility, and it is very difficult to scale, right? And durability problems are there, consistency problems are there, security problems are there. There are so many problems. So that is the reason. So we moved from manual way of storing the data to the computer way of storing the data when the computers are introduced, right? Computer based approach, this is the first step up into the digital world. So where here we are using the computer files for storing the data, right? Text files and excel sheets, right? So here easy to, here you are storing the data in the text files and excel files, right? It will become very easy for you to store the data, and lot of you know disadvantages you will overcome compared to the manual approach with respect to the durability, with respect to the retrieval of the data, but it is very limited. Still, not every problem is we didn't overcome. Not every problem, right? Because it is lack of intelligence with respect to so many parameters, right? That you have seen in the last lecture. I listed a lot of parameters in the tabular format, right? Now, so what is the next approach? What is the better approach? Then we move to the next better approach, which is file management system. Here we overcome a lot of problems with respect to the so many things. And here mainly you are storing the files still again in the text files, right? Using the files only, you are organizing the data properly. And here everything is a very properly and organized way. But the problem is that there is no fixed structure for the data here, that we are going to see in the today's lecture. And what is the next approach of storing the data, the final one? So after completing the file management system, we are going to see database management system, right? Why we are moving to the database management system after file management system? Because there is still the system is not as per expected with respect to the so many things. I mean, like, there is no intelligence, still lack of relational integrity, lack of control, and there is no proper transaction management and concurrency control in the file management system, right? In the database, we almost overcome all the problems. It is a very smart and scalable and secure solution for the all the data needs, right? Okay. So let's get into the actual topic of for the today. What is that? What is the file management system? What is the file management system? What is that? File management system is basically it is a software system that is helping users to store, retrieve, and manage the data in the flat files. These flat files are storing in the hard disk of the computer system, right? And this majority of the times, if you observe, nowadays majority of the modern application uses the database. They don't use the file management system at all, right? But try to understand this is very important nowadays. Instead of storing purpose, we don't use the file management system, but for lot of other purposes, we are using the lot of files, different files. So that is the reason that we have compiled everything and we have placed and in everything into this lecture. So try to utilize this properly, because we are going to see a lot of files that we are doing dealing in the day-to-day in a work life, right? Now see here. In olden days, we used to use the file management system, right? The olden application, if you see, there are so many applications or old applications are there. They are using the file management system, not for storing purpose, but for some other purpose, right? So, and the fundamental question is that here is that how does this file management system working of the file management system, right? Yes. So here in the file management system, we store the data in the files, which is called a flat files. What are the flat files? Can you name the few different flat files? Example like .txt, .csv, .xlx files, .json, .xml, .yml. Like that, there are so many files are there. .dat, like that, there are so many files are there, right? So in the olden days, we used to use these files to store the data, right? Right. First point is over. The next point, very important thing is that here is that in the file management system, so as a developer, you are going to write application programs, right? In order to create a files within the operating system, within the computer system, you can say, you need to write your own application programs in order to create a files, in order to read, write, search, and modify the files. Are you getting? For every file, for every requirement, for every file, you need to write a different application programs. Are you getting? So whatever the files that you are using in your application, business application, there must be proper structure. It may be in the form of rows and columns, or maybe in a different way, right? There is no predefined or fixed structure here for the file. Are you getting? There is no predefined structure for the file. And the one more, the drawback I can say that there is no centralized control, because every program has its own logic to access the file, and one program to another program and one file to another file, there is no relationship, right? You can see in the diagram how I written. So as a developer, you are going to write application program with application code, and you're going to using that application program, you are interacting with the operating system file system, and that will facilitate you to read the data from the file which is stored in the hard disk of the computer system, right? More clearly, if you want, then observe this diagram carefully, right? What is happening here? There is a developer, you can say end user, writing the application program using the some high level programming languages and interacting with the operating system, so that it will facilitate operating system facilitate, because it will be acting as a, right, interaction between the user and the computer system, right, hardware, right? In the hard disk, we have stored the files. Basically, we are storing the files in the hard disk of the computer system. So in order to create the file application using the application programs, end user is interacting with the computer system and then creating the files, and that you are storing in the hard disk of the computer system. You can see that a data file, right? There may be chance that here, so not only for creating the file, sometimes you need to write a different application programs in order to deal with the file, in order to read the file, in order to retrieve the file, contents of the file. Are you getting? In order to retrieve the content of the file, in order to read the content of the file, you might need to write a different application program. Maybe for sometimes to modify the data also based on certain business logic, you might need to write some other application program, right? Imagine you have some application, software application, business application. So how many? There are so many. When you say that there is a software application, right? There are so many features available, right? For every feature, there may be you need to write a different application programs. Suppose let's say if there are 10 features are there, 10 different features. For that every feature, you might need to write a 5 different application programs. Imagine how many programs you are writing. Suppose let's say if you are changing the structure of the file, then your application program won't work. You need to write, you need to change the program also, application program also, code also you need to change. What is happening here, right? Development cost is increasing. That means the time that you are going to spend on the development is increasing, right? There are a lot of problems like this, right? We are going to see one by one in this lecture. So before going to that features and all, so let us understand some basic things, fundamental things which are very, very important, very, very essential for you to understand, is that how many ways you can store the data on the file system of the computer. So I believe you all know all of these things, but let me put everything in a one place so that you will understand very easily, right? So one thing that every day that we use, right, whenever you are using the computer, right, let us assume Windows operating system you are using. So how can you create a file? How can you create a folder using the operating system utility tools, right? A Windows Explorer you can use, command prompt you can use, right? Using that, you are going to create a folders and files, right? And also some built-in softwares like text editors, Notepad and WordPad. Using that also you can create a files, right? You can create a files, you can store the data on the files, right? You can store the data, you can retrieve the data, you can modify the data, right? So this is the manual way of creating the data files, right? Manually creating the files. Agree? Using the built-in text editors, using the Office, right? Office like softwares and operating system tools, Explorer and command prompt. This is the sample data that you can observe here. So when you say that we are dealing with the files in the majority of the times, files in the file system, like how does it look like? Right, you can see that there are some files, sample files for your understanding purpose. The text files, .dat files, .xlx files, right? All right. Moving ahead. So another important things that the point of concentration for this today's lecture is the programmatically how can you create a files? How can you store the files? What are the advantages and what are the disadvantages of it? Right? Are you getting? Yes. So like Like we have seen in the previous slides that we have seen that image where that using some high level programming languages we are creating the files, right? Right. So files are created and managed automatically using the high level programming languages here, right? In this approach. So like if you consider modern programming languages like Python, Java, C++, right? You can create the files very well, right? And in olden days, the people used to use shell scripting, Unix shell scripting, and COBOL and C programming as well, right? In order to deal with the files, they used to write application programs using that programming languages. Here in this approach, developer responsibility used to write a business logics, I mean application programs in order to create the structured files. It may be Java, JSON file, it may be CSV file, it may be XML and dot files, or maybe the text files, right? So the main purpose of this creation of the files is to store the data, right? Not only storing the data alone, right? After storing the data, you have to deal with that files every day, right? So it may be the adding the new data to the files. It may be the just reading the data or fetching the data or modifying the content of the files. So these files basically it will support a automation, right? You can automate the certain task using this approach, right? So some of the common file format that I've written for your understanding purpose, you can go through that later point of time, right? So this approach, whatever maybe the file management system is suitable for the medium level organizations which are dealing with the old data that you may observe, right? Because it will reduce the lot of effort, manual effort, right? All right. Now you can see and observe that there are some sample files that I've added here with the data, with the sample data, JSON files containing the proper structure, and XML file containing its own structure, and .csv file it's containing its own structure. Remember, .csv file if you open with the Excel, it will open in a tabular format, right? But for your understanding purpose, basically the .csv file may contain in a different way also. I mean, like the basic format is every data is separated by the comma. So .csv means comma separated variables. Okay, it may be chance that based on certain business requirement, people may use the different different format. I mean, now in this application, the first file you can see that I have separated the data with a comma, right? There may be chance that some other developer, some other user, they may be use the different file separators, which is called a file delimiter. It may be the semicolon, it may be the space, or it may be the pipe symbol, right? Remember this point very very carefully. Based on requirement of the business, based on developer approach, based on development approach, the file format may be different. Organizing the file is maybe different. Are you getting? Kindly remember this point. We will come to this point again and again. Okay. All right. Now you have seen that. So how can we store the data in the file system of the computer? One is using the manual approach, using the text editors. You can directly create. But majority of the times we are using the programmatical approach only, right? So here maybe you are dealing with the different files compared to the manual files here, right? Now we will take some case studies and we will understand that okay, now you are storing the data in a differently compared to the previous approaches, right? But what are the advantage? You have a lot of advantages here with respect to the durability, with respect to the automating, with respect to the reporting purpose, with respect to the right security purpose, because here you have very good control over the security compared to the previous approaches, but still limitations are there that we are going to see. Okay, right? Now take a simple file system, right? Now see here, observe here. So there are two departments are there here. Kindly observe. So in this way, If you observe carefully here, we have two different departments, which one is the sales department and another one is the personal department, right? Right? In the organization, assume that the organization there are two departments are there, okay? And each department has its own files and programs, right? That you can see in the diagram, right? Each department is having its own files for storing the data and application programs to access and process that files, right? All right. Now, if you see in the blue box, sales department, it is maintaining the two different files. Which what is that? Sales file and a customer file, right? Sales files and the customer files. Here, if you observe carefully, here we have a two different set of application programs are there. What is that? File management programs. That is the first one, and another one is the file report programs. These are the application programs. The purpose of these application programs is different, and there is no relationship between the one application program to the another application programs. Are you getting? So you can imagine, you can assume the file management program is used to handle the reading or maybe writing the files. And file report programs is used for generating the reports based on that files. Are you getting? Right? Each application program, each file is accessed separately through the different application program. There is no common structure and there is no centralized control over the files here. Are you getting? There is no centralized control over the files, right? Similarly, if you see in the orange box, right, it is maintained in the one file, so one single file, which is the agent file. It contains the some data and using the some application programs, file management programs and file report programs, you are reading and managing the files, right? Report generation, or maybe reading and writing the data, right? Like sales department, it will also work independently. The files and programs used here don't connect or don't share the data with the other departments. Are you getting? So sales department files, you don't have any facility to share the sales files with the personal department, right? Similarly, you can't share the personal department files with the not files, data. Okay, personal department data, the sales department directly. There is no directly option is available, right? Right. So let us understand what are the disadvantages, what are the drawback of this approach, this simple file system approach. What are the drawback? We have taken only two different files, simple files and simple application programs are there here, right? What are the disadvantages of this approach, right? Suppose let's say, assume now in the sales department, sales files and customer files, I have stored the data in the format of the JSON. Assume JSON file, right? Because I am very much comfortable with the working with the JSON files. Assume, right? Based on the way that JSON is storing the data, I have written my application, my own program, my own application programs in order to store the data in the files, sales files and customer files, right? Assume tomorrow some other developer came and he modified the JSON files format to the XML format or maybe the .txt file format, text format, right? Because of that, what happen? Whenever somebody is changing the content structure of the file, then what will happen? Your application program won't work. It will break, right? It won't work. Are you getting? So that means what you have to do here? Whenever any structure of the file changes, the program must be modified according to the structure of the file. Are you getting? Right? Suppose let's say there is a one row in the JSON file I modified. Suppose let's say instead of customer number, I modified that structure of the data, or that column name, that record name, from the customer number to customer name, or maybe I added extra record in the file. Then what will happen? You need to change the program logic also, right? Because you are reading the data sequentially, one by one, row by row, right? So whenever you are supposed to read the one field customer type, or maybe the customer number, instead of customer number, customer type is coming. That means that is the wrong data. You are reading the wrong data, right? Or maybe instead of customer name, you are reading the customer type. Customer name is what? It is what kind of data? String, right? Customer type is what? String. Customer number is what? Integer number. See, data type also different, right? So whenever you are presenting the data, whenever you are reading the data, so if there is any structure, if any structure of the data changes, or maybe the format of the data changes, then what will happen? Your program logic also must be changed. You have to change the program logic also, otherwise it won't work, right? There is a higher chance of error prone. There may be a chance of higher error prone. That means a lot of bugs will come, right? All right. So we will. What is the next another drawback? Can you say, right? There may be chance that the customer data might be required in the agent file also, right? May in the sales file also. Since there is no relationship between the one file to the another file, what happens? You don't have any option other than storing the customer's data in the sales file and agent files. Multiple places you need to store. That will increasing the that will increase what? Redundancy, data redundancy, right? And one more very important point that you need to understand here is that there is no direct way of sharing the data. There is no option for sharing the data across the departments. Now here only we have two departments, assume, right? Here we have a simple file system. We have taken a simple file system, and which is containing the sales department and the personal department, right? Assume whenever you wanted to provide more and more business services, and more features need to be introduced, right? You need to introduce the more and more features whenever you are giving the more services to the customer, right? In that case, what happens? Whenever the services are increasing, you need to handle the so many different files, right? Files also will increase, and for that every file you need to write a different application programs, isn't it? Right. That means what? The code maintenance of the code will increases. Higher maintenance, right? Excessive programming maintenance, because the concentration of the mind business developer, application developer, means what? Writing the business logic. Instead of writing the business logic, you are mainly, so along with that, you are also concentrating on how the data is stored, how the data is created, how the file is created, and how the data is stored in the files, right? When the features are increasing, you need to worry about these things also, because of that, what will happen? Cost of development will increase, time of the development will increase, right? Budget of the development also will increase, right? It is burden to the organization, isn't it? And maintenance of the this application also, you need to spend, right? Right. What have we seen till now? Can you tell me what are the different drawbacks that we have seen? Program and data dependence, right? When the structure of the file changes, you need to change the logic of the program, right? Duplication of the data. Since there is no relationship between the one file to another file, there may be majority of the times what happens, same data required at different places, right? So if that is the requirement, then what will happen? You need to, there is no other option copying the same data at the, maintaining the same data at the multiple files. Because of that, what will happen? So redundancy of the data will increase. Duplication of the data will increases, right? And there is no option of data sharing between the one file to another file, or maybe the one department to the another department, or maybe one feature to the another feature of the application, right? Right. And development cost is also very high in this approach, right? Lengthy development. Not only you are worrying about the development of the business logic. Here you are worrying about the storing of the data, maintaining of the data, right? Isn't it? So that is the reason. So we understood that we as a development. So you need to worry about the right. Working on the business logics, not only storing of the data, right? If you have a very good sophisticated system, very robust system for storing the data, then you don't need to write lengthy codes. Are you getting what I'm saying? Is the file based approach is working for the small set of organizations. When the business is developing, when the business is grows, complexity also increases. What is that meaning? So you need to provide a more and more services and more features, more and more services, more and more application development, right? If that is the case, then maintenance of this kind of system is a very difficult, right? So that is the reason companies moved from file management system to the database management system. Are you getting? Which will be having a lot of features and centralized control over the data, and it is more secure and robust and more structured way of storing the data. It is a one-stop solution for storing and organizing the data properly, right? So now in this case study, you have seen only two departments. Now we will little bit increase the complexity and understand in a more proper way, right? Yes. The same thing. Then another image with multiple departments. See, there are in sales department, customers data, sales data, and inventory data. Inventory data is available in the files, and and the accounting department wanted to access the sales department data. Right? There is no option for sharing the data. This is very difficult to share the data. So there is no other option other than manually maintaining the data or one more copy of the data in the accounts department, right? Same thing, whatever we have seen, the redundancy of the data and data sharing and maintenance of the application. Now, you wanted to share the data, there is no option, right? You need to write separately. You need to store the data in the separately. All right. Now, let us understand the one more case study here. Right, very important case study. Try to understand this one very carefully. This is which is a banking related application. Okay, one more case study which is banking related case study. It's very important. Try to understand this diagram carefully. Try to observe 1 minute. If you see the architecture of this diagram, it is talking about some banking application, right? Because with the terminologies like loan processing and fixed deposit processing and transaction processing, you can understand very easily it is talking about some banking related application, right? Right. So if you observe the architecture, it is a banking related application using the some file system to store and manage the customer data, right? All right. So there are different programs. If you observe, there are different programs handling the different banking operations, right? There are different set of application programs written in order to maintain the different banking operations or services. Each application program here, if you observe, is interacting with its own set of flat files, its own set of files, right? All right. Now, if you see that, if you see this diagram, we have three different layers, right? We will understand each layer one by one. Okay, but we will come from the bottom layer. Okay, from the bottom layer, if you see here, there are a lot of individual files are available, right? Individual flat files we are using here for storing the customer information with respect to the specific context. What is that? If you talk about the loan processing, right? So for that, in order to store that loan related data, you have a customer loan, right? And in order to deal with the fixed department related data, you are storing that data using the inside the customer fixed deposit file, right? Similarly, customer related transactions you are storing in the customer transaction files, right? Transaction history, okay? And the basic information of the customer is available in the customer details file, right? And then the next layer, the top layer is that the file system. On top of the flat files, you have a file system. What is that? It is a traditional way of, you can think of the traditional way of I mean, like storing the data using the operating system support, right? Are you getting? All right. And also one more thing, there is no such support as a database here. File system won't support any kind of query. There is no query support. I mean, like, there is no SQL kind of facility here in the file system, and there is no relationship between the for one file to another files. A file system won't provide such kind of any facility here. Try to understand, right? The top layer, which is the main important layer, where the point for the concentration here is that for every business services you have a different application programs, right? Loan underscore processing, that is the one application programs in order to deal with the loan processing of the business banking service, one of the banking service, right? Similarly, for the fixed deposit, there is a one more application program, fixed deposit processing, which is dealing with the customer fixed deposit file, okay? Transaction for processing, similarly, it is dealing with the customer transaction file, right? How does it work? How does it work? Can you tell me how does it work? Directly, loan processing application program is dealing with the customer files and the customer loan file, right? What will happen? And there is no relationship between the customer details and customer loan and the other files, right? The thing is here, whenever the customer takes the loan, whenever customer takes the loan, try to understand. Whenever customer takes the loan, customer data available in the first place where customer details file, right? So once customer is confirmed, once he takes the loan, that customer details related data will be added into the customer's loan file. That means then a new record is added into the customer loans file. Are you getting? Similarly, for fixed deposit and transaction history also similarly for different application programs are operating on the different files, fixed deposit files and transaction files. Are you getting? All right. Now, okay. So there are different application programs are dealing with the different files and storing and managing the data. That is fine. What are the disadvantages of this approach? This looks fine only because there are different application program is dealing with the different files, right? But when you go in depth, if you want customer, if the banking want to introduce the more services like insurance and some other services, right? Insurance kind of services. For that, again, you need to write a one more application programs. You need to maintain a different set of files for that feature, right? That means the complexity of this application is increasing. As a developer, maintaining this all these features and integrating and everything, it will become more and more complex, right? Let us see and understand few problems with this approach. Problems with this approach. What is that? Program and data dependence. That means now you know that loan processing application is dealing with the customer details file and customer loan file, right? Suppose let's say if I change the structure of the customer details file, then what will happen? Definitely, your program won't work. It will break, right? It will break. You have to update a customer underscore processing application program logic also, right? Are you getting? You need to change the application program also. You need to change the code also, right? Can you tell me what other problems with this approach file system? Yes. What are the other problems with this approach? What about the data redundancy? Right. So whenever some customer want to take the business, I mean, like he wanted to take the fixed deposit. He wanted to do the fixed depositing. That means in order to do this fixed deposit processing, definitely customer details is required, right? But customer details are stored in the customer details file. So there is no other option. You need to maintain the one more separate data, separate copy, right? So what I'm saying is that customers' basic information is copied across the multiple files like customer loan, fixed deposit, customer transactions, right? That means data redundancy is increasing. Lot of duplicate data is coming, right? And also, if you observe carefully, there is no relationships. Unlike databases, we don't have a concept of foreign key. There is no concept of integrity constraints, right? Because of that, it will creating a lot of problems, right? There is no relationship. You are maintaining the data in every places. It is increasing the complexity, and there is no chance of data sharing also here. If you see here, right? And one more important thing is that one more problem is that, so there may be chance that there is some majority of the times if there is any modification in the customer file. Suppose let's say one customer's address you need to change, right? But the customer's basic information is available in the lot of other files also. So whenever you are changing the customer address, definitely you need to change the all other files also. Otherwise, lot of consistency problems will come, right? Isn't it? Because you need to maintain the same copy of the data at every file. What it is representing? Can you tell me? What is that problem? Can you tell me? Inconsistency, risk of high inconsistency. Are you getting? Right? And here there is one more thing is that the concurrency. What about the concurrency? Suppose let's say if two more developers are trying to access the files, or more developer, I mean like more application programs are trying to read the files at the same time, then what will happen? It may be chance that it may corrupt, right? It may be chance that it may corrupt because there is no locking mechanism here. Unlike in databases, we don't have any locking mechanism, right? What does that mean? There is a lot of concurrency related problems also will come, right? If you talk about the customer transactions related, now you are maintaining the customer banking related transaction here, right? If you don't update the customer banking transactions properly into the customer files, transaction file, then what will happen? It will lead to the lot of problems. Maybe it may be to the customer and it may be to the banking, right? Right. So, right. The meaning. So there is no transaction concurrency control using this approach. Proper transaction control and is not available here. And what about the data retrieval here? Can you tell me what about the data retrieval? Right? Data retrieval. So you need to read lot of files, right? You need to go whenever you wanted to read the data, you need to communicate with the operating system, and then operating system will provide a facility to file read the file and inside the file contents of that file. So that means IO cost, input and output cost is increases. Cost of reading the data is very high in the file system. right? What about the scalability, right? Suppose let's say you wanted to increase one more feature like insurance application, insurance feature. Then what is that? What does that mean? Yeah, you can write application programs and you can write the maintain the files. But how many? If more and more features you wanted to increase, then how many files you will maintain? How many application programs you will maintain, right? Isn't it create a high maintenance cost, high development time, right? Are you getting? So now here we have seen only three files. Similarly, we're going to see one more approach that we see regularly in our day-to-day life. E-commerce management. Suppose let's say in e-commerce, so in the in e-commerce application, business application, I have three different features. One is the order management and inventory management system and invoice management system, or maybe the billing management system, invoice management system. So now in order to provide this orders related services and inventory related and invoice related services, I have I'm storing the data in the different files, like a orders file, order details file, customer files, and I with respect to the inventory, item master and item details and item stocks. With respect to the billing invoice, I have invoice master, invoice details, and customer billing, right? In order to read the provide the services for every file and for every feature for every system here, you need to maintain a separate application programs. You need to write a different application programs for the everything, for every file, I can say sometimes. Are you getting? So in this diagram, if you see that there are three different departments for the orders and warehouse and billing, right? And it will manage the data using the independent application programs. And with respect to that, we have flat files for storing the data, right? I hope you understood what is the meaning. Then how does it work basically? Each department has its own set of files, right? That is fine. It will uses the independent program to process these files, that is also fine. And the one more thing is that here there is no option of sharing the files with the other departments, and you can't even share the data also. Like we have seen data repeated, right? Repeated data, duplication of data in multiple places. Here also there is no other option other than managing the customer data at the different department, right? For every file, to deal with every file, to deal with the manage that each department files, you need to write a different application program, so different logics you need to provide there. Are you getting? And like we have seen in the previous case study that lot of data dependency will be there. Program data dependency is very high. If there is any changes in the file, you need to definitely change the logic of the program also, right? Lot of serious problems will come, right? Data duplication is there. And one more thing, not only the structure of the file, if you change the name of the file also problem only. If you change the name of the file also, a lot of problems will come, right? Because every file contain a different naming conventions. If you change the name of the file, you return that program name inside your application programs, then definitely it can't read the file. No such file found, something like that, you will get an error, right? So that is the reason a lot of problems is there. Security problems also there, right? Because if somebody is coming and changing the file, even though you have a very good control using the operating system security features, so but still you can't avoid that. If somebody, let's say intentionally or unintentionally, if some developer changes the name, it will be a problem, right? Because there is a role management not there properly here. With respect to the developer, with respect to the role, you can't give the permission, unlike in the databases, right? We will see in the databases what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is security about. right? Security and all. And like there is no centralized control over all the files. There is no proper integration from the one department to the another department, right? And if you wanted to increase more and more features, more and more services, then definitely it is increasing the burden of the development, right? Cost of the development will increase, effort of the developers will increase, time for the development will increases. Because now see here in this case study, if you see here carefully, so customer is ordered some items, right? That is fine. From the warehouse department, you need to right, deliver. From the warehouse department, you need to deliver the items to the customer, right? Where is the relationship between the order management and inventory management system here? Because when from the warehouse, you need to, when you want to deliver, so you need to know what are the orders that are ordered by the, what are the items that are ordered by the customer, right? First you need to know the customer details, and then the customer order details you need to know, right? Order department must provide that data, must share the data to the warehouse department, right? In order to generate invoice, billing department must know what is the customer details, primary details of the customer, customer name, customer mobile number, customer orders, customer items, whatever he ordered, and what is the amount for the each and every item, and the total cost, right? To generate invoice, these are all the primary things required. Since if you don't have a facility to share the data, then how can the system will work, right? Are you getting? One more important thing is that, suppose let's say now you assume the delivery executive delivered the product, and if customer is, the product is damaged and item is damaged, and he wanted to return that product, he is returning that product, right? Then assume that there is some other services like returns process management, right? You need to know, right, what kind of items customer is ordered, so that you can return the, once he returns the product, you can manage that returned items properly in the system, right? This is about the another service from this e-commerce. And one more another service, if you want, if I want to add, um, delivery management system, right? Delivery management system, proof of delivery. After delivering the product, you will get a mails, right? Product is delivered, something like that. So when you are not able to share the data across the different department, how can a delivery proof, or how can you manage that delivery related information? Isn't it difficult, right? For that, again, you need to write a separate copy of the separate data. You need to maintain the separate application program, separate files. It is a very, very tedious task, right? Maintaining application is very, very difficult. So what I wanted to say is that scalability is very, very limited with respect to the file management system. Are you getting? Right? So then what is the solution? What is the solution? Right? Before going to see the solution, then we will understand what are the different criteria in the different criteria with respect to the file management system. These are all already, you know, that during this case studies we have seen that what is the storage medium that we are using here, the files and the folders, right? You are creating the folders, and inside the folders you are creating the files on the hard disk of the computer systems, right? Sometimes maybe the server, but still at the end of the day you are going to store the data on the hard disk only. Ignore about the cloud platforms, right? And then what about the data retrieval and data search? It is faster compared to the previous approaches, because you are writing some application programs and you have very good control over the files with respect to the files, right? What about the security? But you have a security related to the files using the file formation and user logins and folder level access controls, but you can't guarantee that it is 100% secure. Still sometimes, because of some mistakes, developers may do the mistake. It, may be changing the name, it may be changing the structure, right? That is why the centralized control or security is not properly there. 100% is not there. What about the durability? There is no problem with the durability, because you can save the files as long as the computer system is there, right? As long as computer is working, you can store for any longer time, right? Permanently you can store. What about the scalability? Yeah, up to certain level it is providing the scalability, like we have seen in the previous slide, that we are talking about the e-commerce application case study, where you are having a different departments, right? And there in the different departments, and again you are going to add different features like orders process management, returns process management, and delivery management system, right? Tracking management system, customer management system, right? If you add more and more features, maintenance will become very easy, very difficult. That means you can say that scalability is moderate, it's not complete scalability. There is no such better approach for this scalability when when it comes to the file management system. Data security. Uh, Before that, backup and recovery. What about the backup and recovery? Yeah, since you are storing in the computer system, then definitely there is a higher chance of that you can recover the data, back up the data, and recover the data, right? Using certain tools, right? That option is available, but is still that is not a robust approach, good approach, right? What about the data sharing? You can share the files over the mail, but that is a security problem will come, right? But there is no option for sharing the data directly, right? Without sharing the complete file, are you able to share the certain portion of the data in the inside the file? No, there is no option. Data sharing is very limited. You can say no, right? Data consistency compared to the previous approach, but it is little bit better, but still problems are there. Multi-user access is there. Here also you can have multiple customers, they can read the data at a time, right? But the problem is that they can edit the file also. Still again the problem, right? Redundancy, we have seen lot of redundancy problems, right? Data integrity. Data integrity. What about the data integrity? There is no such feature like databases. In integrity constraints are not there. There is no relationship between the one file to the another file. But inside within the limit, whatever the files available, that you can manage, right? And what about the automation support? Yes, whenever you are having using the application program, it means definitely there is a chance of automating the, right, automating the certain task, right? And there is a chance for the reporting and analysis also. Since you are storing in the files using the like Python programming, modern programming language, definitely you can very well create some kind of report. You can analyze the data and you can create certain reports, right? And it is best suitable for small scale to medium scale businesses, and it is not suitable for a very big organizations, right? Right. Okay, before ending the session, let us understand what is the solution. So we have seen a lot of problems, right? So then what is the solution for this approach? What is the solution? The solution is to, there is no other option other than going for the database management system. It will provide you the centralized control, supports for the integrity constraints, with better backup and recovery, better security, better with respect to the consumer, with respect to the lot of other things like consistency and other things, right? It will definitely it will ensure the consistency and security, scalability, and multi-user access in a real time. Are you getting? So these are all the features for the in the databases. It will provide more and more better approach compared better services compared to the file management system. All right. Before closing the session, I wanted to encourage you to write some application programs, take some customer data. Maybe you can take this approach. You can create a three different folders order filling system and inventory system and invoice system, and you create a different flat files in each folders and write some application programs and try to see that what are all the problems that are you are going to get when you change the file structure, right? When you want to share the data, whether you are able to share the data, and suppose let's say you wanted to share the data with some other application programs, then again what will happen? You need to write a different code, lengthy code, right? Right. So observe all these problems, right, with respect to the redundancy of the data, duplication of the data, right, with respect to the data sharing, with respect to the program and data dependency, tight coupling is there, right? So try to observe, write the programs using the Python programming or maybe any programming, whatever you like, write some program and try to understand all the problems that whatever we have discussed so far, right? Are you getting? All right. Thank you so much. We will catch up in the next session with the practical. Practical. We are going to see practically by writing some programs, right? By then, I encourage you to write your own programs and observe all these features, right?